Law enforcement, what is the worst crime you've seen someone commit? While I was a trainee, my field training officer was a member of SWAT. We had the understanding that if it hit the fan, then we would drop whatever we were doing so he could respond. We were at a smash and grab from a methadone clinic when I heard a call of domestic violence came out over the radio. A 19-year-old son had called saying that he thought his dad killed his mom in their house. He was in his room and heard a bang come from his parents' locked bedroom. As he was explaining this to dispatch, we learned that the father was a felon and the son had seen him buy an AR-15 and several other guns which are illegal for a felon to possess. Apparently the fight started because mom had found dad's guns and was unhappy about it. I tell my FTO about the call and he kinda brushes it off saying that we'll let other units respond unless it gets dicey. So the sergeant gets on the radio and begins relaying orders for responding officers and dispatch. He tries to have dispatch tell the son to walk out the front door and leave it wide open so we have an easy view inside and can enter quickly. Turns out, the son was so mortified he had already jumped out his bedroom window and ran to the street. So the first officers there begin setting up a perimeter to lock the suspect in the area and prevent him from escaping. We have a single-man unit speaking with the son trying to get more detailed information and a two-man unit walks to the rear fence, both armed with AR-15s. As they peek over the fence they see an older male wearing a bathrobe. He's seated on a plastic chair on the patio and his back is to the officers. He is just staring inside the house toward the kitchen area. They have a pretty good idea that this is the suspect and challenge him. "Police, put your hands up." The man just turns his head around and begins laughing to himself and says, "Screw you guys, you're gonna have to kill me," and turns to face the kitchen again. As he turns, the officers see the AR-15 at his feet pointed upward. They put out over the radio, "We have the suspect in the back, he's armed with an R." At this point I nudge my FTO again and he's like, "Oh shit, let's go." We leave the scene to another officer and haul code 3 lights and sirens across our division. We're listening to the radio waiting to hear what's going on and all of a sudden we just hear shots fired then silence. It's hard to explain, but for the slightest second, your whole gut drops and you're waiting on something else from your partners on scene, because for all you know they were just killed. So after a drudgingly long 5 seconds or so, they put out a relieving officers code 4, suspect had a self-inflicted wound. So my FTO looks over and says, I bet the guy is dead already, but let's still roll through and see if they need help. As he's saying that the officers broadcast, "Start medics for a 50-year-old male wound to the face." So we kinda say to each other, if he's not dead now, he's probably on the ground dying. When the officers update, subject is conscious and breathing. No way he's conscious and breathing. So as we pull up, my FTO sprints out of the car toward the house leaving me by myself. I park and start walking over when my FTO comes back saying, "Holy crap, you have to see this." At that point I'm thoroughly convinced I'm about to walk into something ridiculous. So as I walk into the backyard I see the guy sitting on a lawn chair. He is literally gurgling for air. Turns out, as officers had challenged him to put his hands up a second time, he just yelled "screw you," and placed the barrel of the AR-15 up underneath his chin. He leaned back and pulled the trigger. Unfortunately for him, the angle he was leaning caused the bullet to go straight through his chin and out his nose, hitting no vital organs or arteries. So as I'm looking at the man, I can't decide whether his now filleted face looks like Zoidberg from Futurama or a zombie from Walking Dead. His tongue is drooping down against his throat, he has no teeth, no mouth, no nose, and to be honest, it all looked like some cheesy movie prop. He is just sitting there in a daze, looking around wheezing for air like nothing happened. The officers are trying to ask him about his wife and his attempts at talking were thoroughly thwarted by his lack of mouth. So as the medics roll up they tell us they can't fit the gurney into the patio so we need to walk him down. So 2 officers go to grab his arms and he starts flailing. My FTO pulls out a taser. I'm staring semi-bewildered and look at him saying, "You're gonna tase some guy who just blew his face off?" He just replied, "Screw this guy, he just possibly killed his wife, he just tried to end himself. I'm not gonna give him another chance to grab a gun or infect us with some disease." For some reason all the officers jumped back and watched as the guy stumbled out the patio and into the ambulance. So now we turn our attention inside and run to find mom. She's lying half naked in bed, bleeding everywhere. Husband apparently did not shoot her, he shot the ceiling instead. He did however punch her in the face leaving her a mess. He also brought her to the point of unconsciousness. Somehow, she was still alive and going strong, despite still recovering from a brain surgery a few weeks prior. There were 2 kickers as we left the house. First, turns out the dad was hepatitis C positive, so everyone had now been exposed to it. And even crazier, as I walked out the kitchen, I looked up to the wall. Turns out, when he blew his face off, Dad's mustache was blown into the far wall of the kitchen and was plastered onto the wall like a slab of hairy deli meat.